Welcome to SportsBeat KC, the sports podcast of the Kansas City Star and KCUR. It is Tuesday, October 7th, and I'm Blair Kirchhoff. Today we discuss the Chiefs' 31-28 heartbreaking loss to the Jacksonville Jaguars on Monday Night Football. Beat writer Pete Sweeney will join me to break down what went wrong in Florida. After a break, I'll catch up with Pam Kramer, Chief Executive Officer of KC2026, the organization that oversees Kansas City's part in the FIFA World Cup next summer. Where does Kansas City stand with preparations to host the world's biggest sporting event? And finally, I'll share what's on my radar in Kansas City sports this week. Let's get started. Hello, Pete.
Hey there, Blair. How's it going?
Not bad, not bad. I tell you what, going into the game, I didn't think that we would be talking about a Chiefs loss, and then after the Chiefs jumped ahead 14-0, I especially thought we would not be talking about a Chiefs loss, but here we are. How about sharing just some initial thoughts from what happened tonight in Jacksonville?
Yeah, to me, I think the Chiefs had control of the game early. Everyone saw that they jumped out to a 14-0 lead. And really, I think it was right there for them on what should have been an interception. Went through the hands of three Chiefs defenders. And to me, that started what would be a relinquish of control of this football game. And I think it kind of tailspin from there. And you put on top of that, some of the penalties that the Chiefs had, and really an inability to contain Trevor Lawrence, something that we hadn't seen since week one in Brazil, where the Chiefs gave up all those yards to Justin Herbert on the ground. It ended up being the perfect cocktail mixed with something we never see from Patrick Mahomes, which is an interception return for a touchdown at the goal line. A perfect cocktail, a perfect storm, whatever you want to call it. If you get one of these things to change, the several things that I just mentioned off the top of my head, I think it's a different night for Kansas City. Maybe it's not a pretty win, maybe it's an ugly win, but it's a win nonetheless, and just wasn't their night here in Jacksonville.
A lot to unpack there. Let's start with the back-breaking play of the game, the 99-yard interception return by Jaguars linebacker Devin Lloyd. It's funny, the Chiefs have committed 2 turnovers this year. Both have been Patrick Mahomes interceptions at the goal line. This one, of course, taken back for a touchdown, turned a 14-14 game into a Jaguars 21-14 lead in the third quarter. That was such a tough play. I don't know what Mahomes was seeing there. Did you get a chance to talk to him after the game?
Yeah, Mahomes, again, I think for me, it looked like he thought he had Juju, and Devin Lloyd, pretty good player for the Jaguars, is able to step in front of it. What surprised me most about the play, Blair, is that Lloyd, as good as he is a defender, he's not the speediest defender in the world. He's able to avoid Mahomes and diving. We've seen Mahomes make tackles before in the past. Is able to outrun, what looked to be Kareem Hunt. Tyquan Thornton tried to run down the sideline and get him, but he did have a blocker or two. And you could tell by the end of the 99-yard return, he was a bit gassed. And even, I think we've seen in other games, the Eagles game comes to mind, where at least you give the defense a chance, and it just wasn't to be on that particular play. And I think you wonder what the game looks like if they're even able to stop them, let's say at the 7 or the 6, or even a little bit before that. Can the Chiefs force a field goal? And maybe it changes the whole feel of the night. But you could just tell, I think, in being here down in Jacksonville, Blair, once that happened, the place was rocking. And I think it's a talking point for the Chiefs every week, maybe seemingly since they lifted their 4th Lombardi trophy. This is the playoffs for a lot of these teams that are trying to build programs, and the Jaguars are certainly one of them. They haven't been able to have sustained success. You could tell that this game really mattered to the entire city, the entire fan base. You could see it on the players' faces. You could see it on Trevor Lawrence's face. And that was such a turning point because even though the Chiefs did manage to get themselves back in the game, in part due to it probably was a blown call, not pass interference on Jaden Hicks that led to the interception, even though that went the other way. I just think it really kind of set the stadium on fire, and the Chiefs were never really to regain that momentum.
You're right. And the Chiefs had taken momentum with a great defensive play of their own. The Nick Bolton forced fumble of Trevor Lawrence on the 4th and goal at the 1. He was trying to stretch the ball over the goal line, lift it up over the pile, and Nick Bolton with a heads-up play to knock it from his grasp course, Chiefs recovered at the 3 and turned that into a 97-yard touchdown drive to take a 14 to nothing lead, and at that point, I just thought, "Boy, everything's coming up Chiefs tonight." Patrick Mahomes is playing so well. Tyquan Thornton, is becoming even more valuable as a, as a newcomer wide receiver. Things just seem to be going the Chiefs' way, and then the Jaguars, you said it earlier, it was the Chiefs were in control then. The Jaguars got a touchdown, got their confidence back a little bit, and then the Chiefs go 3 and out to open the second half. The Jaguars tie it up at 14, and then it's a toss-up game. The Chiefs with a lot of mistakes in the second half, especially the penalties. What was the final number? I think it was 13
13.
penalties for 109, 4 for the Jaguars, and I imagine Andy Reid spent some time talking about that afterwards.
That's been a theme, I think, for the entire locker room in terms of post-game reaction. I mean, everybody you talk to simply said the word penalties. And, what that tells me is when Andy's talking about it, Mahomes is talking about it, Chris Jones is talking about it, any individual player, I think I talked to 4 or 5 players following this game, they all mentioned penalties. I really feel like they felt had they committed 3 less penalties, maybe the game is different, but it was just such a disparity and just a lack of disciplined football. And it just kept on giving the Jaguars opportunities. Also, special teams, they have 4 penalties, and one of the bigger ones, we've been waiting for Harrison Butker to have a perfect night, and then he kicked the ball out of bounds and give the Jaguars a chance to respond and make it, a lot easier on them. And so I think they feel like if they clean it up, they're the team that, they feel like can go back to a Super Bowl. But again, in a game, and you kind of mentioned it before we got back on penalties, but every game's 60 minutes long. This game felt 120 minutes long with just all of the moments. It's hard to even, recall everything that transpired in this game. It felt like there were so many different versions of it. But again, I think on that, you have to tip your hat to the Jaguars. There were a lot of times tonight where the Jaguars could have just coiled, down 14. A penalty goes the other way, and the Chiefs were able to tie it. The Chiefs were able to take a lead. And how many times have we seen them, despite all that happens, the Chiefs just find a way, but the Jaguars come back. And I think it's a lesson to remember that you're always going to get the opposing team's best shot. The Jaguars are trying to build a program too. And kudos to Liam Cohen for, I think, finally having them in a space where it seems like the NFL is going to start taking them a lot more seriously. I think every game doesn't have to mean one thing. It can mean 2 things. For me, this is a potential franchise-altering win, as the Jaguars are trying to turn into something. And another, I think it's a wake-up call for Kansas City. Like, how are you going to respond to this? We've seen an adversity-filled start on a season that I think is really about 2 parts: the part before Rasheed Rice gets back, and the part where he gets back. I've constantly said I think they need to be 3-3, and my goodness, now is that task tall as you're looking the Detroit Lions in the eye, where you have to get that win to feel like, okay, we're in a really good spot once you get your focal point of the offense back.
Pete Sweeney, Chiefs beat writer, is our guest on SportsBeat KC. And yeah, Pete, that's where I was going to go next. The Detroit Lions will be at Arrowhead for Sunday Night Football. So the prime time Chiefs continue next week. And Detroit's the hottest team in the NFL. They've won 4 games in a row after losing the opener to the Green Bay Packers. They just blitzed the Cincinnati Bengals, got off to a big lead, and Cincinnati came back and made it somewhat respectable. But all their stars had a big game. David Montgomery, Jamar Gibbs, Jared Goff, St. Brown. They all showed, the defense showed up. Nobody in the NFL is playing better than Detroit right now. And you said it. The Chiefs are 2-3. They had an opportunity to go into first place, at first place tie in the AFC West with the Chargers and the Broncos, but they fall to 2-3 instead. It looms as a pretty significant game on Sunday Night Football, does it not?
Oh, it's tremendous. And I mean, Blair, you've been doing this a long time. You know how this works. Everybody's going to be off the Chiefs this week and questioning again. Seemed like they had reversed course after that was happening the first 2 weeks, but now this is going to be another easy access type of game to say, okay, this isn't the Chiefs team that we've seen before. This is one that makes mistakes, one that doesn't really look like the champions that we've seen over the last half decade. And now you have an opportunity. I mean, I think that's how you have to look at it. That's how a lot of the players were talking about this upcoming Lions game. You have an opportunity to right that ship and, try to, I think, reverse what is going to be an identity that you're just not used to, where you're a struggling team. And you're right. The Detroit Lions are on fire. It is going to be a tall task. But I bring all that up because I say, if you are able to somehow emerge victorious from that game, and it's the NFL, just because the Lions I imagine will be favored, and I imagine they're going to come in with a head of steam. If you're able to win that game, it'll just reverse the course again. And so I think Kansas City will look at it as an opportunity. We'll see if they can make it a game and come out with a win against the Lions next Sunday.
Chiefs open as a 1.5-point favorite on the look-ahead line. We'll see if that changes based on the outcome of the Jacksonville game. Okay, Pete, thank you very much. Let's take a break, and when we come back, we'll be talking World Cup soccer in Kansas City with Pam Kramer. We're about 9 months away from the biggest sporting event in the world coming to Kansas City. Some 650,000 visitors projected to be in KC. I'm here with Pam Kramer, Chief Executive Officer of KC2026. It's a daunting task. How are you feeling, Pam?
I'm feeling great. We're now under 250 days. So every time a number changes in that first or second column, we take a deep breath, but I feel like we're in a great position. We continue to lead in lots of ways. And I think it really is a reflection of the unity and the regional interest. And I tell people all the time, we're the smallest host city, but I think that makes the opportunity bigger for us, because it's all brand new here.
Let's talk about some initiatives and progress. And we'll start with KC Game Plan. That speaks to small businesses, doesn't it?
It does. Speaks to small business and local business. We want to be really intentional about making sure we're communicating what they should expect, what businesses will be impacted. So setting an expectation, making sure that people have an accurate expectation. And we did that with the input and collaboration of the existing entrepreneur support organizations. We have great organizations in Kansas City, Kauffman Foundation, SourceLink. So rather than recreate the wheel, we started with those organizations to help us help small business.
What kind of things do they want to know?
They want to know who's coming, how many people will be here, how long will they stay, what businesses will be affected, right? So not only hospitality, so restaurants, bars, but also personal services, which was interesting, event-related companies, not surprising. I always joke that if you have a bridal shop, you may not see an impact. So we want to make sure people know that not every business will be affected, but the ones that we think will be affected, we want to make sure they have the tools and resources.
Is it just in the downtown area or outside downtown as well?
One of the things that is really permeating all of our strategies is distribution of economic impact. So it is downtown with the FIFA Fan Festival, the hotel center downtown, but then our transportation network, the small business game plan program, making sure we're pushing people to other parts of the metro and connecting visitors to all parts of the region, really, so that we can not only distribute economic impact, but make sure visitors get the full view of who we are.
Remind me again what the economic impact might be.
So projected from Visit Kansas City is $652 million. That's just direct economic impact. So that is the first dollar that a tourist will spend with the restaurant, with the bar, at the hotel, not the supplier of the restaurant who will then hire people, and the tertiary and secondary impacts.
I can remember this summer, there was a big push for volunteers. I remember seeing them up at Chiefs training camp, a booth for volunteers. And then at Overland Park at the campus had a big event for that. Tell us, is the volunteer window closed? And if not, how do people sign up?
Yeah, our staff is, I always say, they are a little bit like Johnny Cash. They've been everywhere, man. They have been all over the region at every festival and event, and that is intentional. We want to make sure people from across the region are engaged and participating. So we have not closed volunteer signups yet. We have thousands of people who have signed up, but we know that there will be attrition, and we don't want people to feel like when they fill out that application, they're committing. So I would encourage anybody who's still interested to go fill out the application and then work through the process. And we'll get to the end point. We'll need close to 6,000, but That process is still open. And one of the greatest things about it is that we are seeing such a wide range in who's applying. So students, retired people, professionals who their employers are saying, we're not going to make you take PTO, which we love. And we want that diversity. We want visitors to see who we are.
And volunteer work, you're not getting paid for it, but there is a little something in it for a volunteer.
Yeah, the perks are pretty great. And so in addition to being part of the biggest and best thing to ever happen here, there's I think, 10-piece swag set, including Adidas shoes. So that's pretty terrific. Meals are provided. And again, just being able to say that you helped us, you were part of the effort to do this. We think this is going to be something that people point to 20, 30 years from now as a moment that really accelerated the region on the world stage. And we know people here want to be part of big things. So this is the best way to do that.
How long would the commitment be?
So it's 8 shifts over the course of the tournament. So it depends on the role. Some roles could be starting in January because they will be perhaps screening other volunteers or training other volunteers. And then there will be some tournament time only roles. So it really depends on the availability, the role, and how those two things go together.
We're here on SportsBeat KC, the Star and KCUR Sports Podcast with Pam Kramer, CEO of KC2026. So, Pam, what I think about the World Cup coming next June, for me, the games are going to be fantastic. 6 games at Kansas City Stadium, known as that for the month that the World Cup will be here, but also the base camps. And nothing's been determined base camp wise. We know what the candidates are in Kansas City for the base camps, but we don't know who would come here or if nations would come here. Let me ask you, are you still feeling confident that Kansas City will land some base camps?
I'm feeling very confident. And one of the strengths of our bid was facilities. More than $600 million has been invested in soccer infrastructure in Kansas City over the last 20 years, including those base camp locations. So they are some of the best facilities in North America. The process is heating up, I would say. So I think as of today, there are 18 teams of the 48 who have qualified. Qualifying's happening right now through November. So as teams qualify, they will start to visit or come back to visit, right? They now know they're in. They can take it a little more seriously. Perhaps they don't want to jinx themselves before they're in, but the feedback is consistent. They love our location, they love our facilities, and they love the welcome they get and the experience they have when they're here.
Okay, and I probably am remiss if I don't try to define what a base camp is. It's the headquarters for the national teams, and not necessarily teams that play here.
Correct. So the team, their sponsors, depending on the federation, their fans, the affiliates that they have will come in. The team will arrive 2 weeks before they start playing, and that'll be their home base for the entirety of the tournament. They'll fly to and from their matches. They could be in Kansas City, but they don't have to be. And I think the ability for the federations to interact with our people. I heard Matt Beasler speak a few weeks ago, and Matt was talking about his experience in Brazil and how he remembers most the city where they were base camped and the experience of that city. So that anecdotal experience, I think, is just one little glimpse of what we can expect.
And when we talk about 650,000 visitors to Kansas City with the economic impact of $652 million, it's with base camps in mind, isn't it?
That number does not actually reflect any base camp assumption. It's just the matches. So a lot of that will depend on the federation. And, if we get a top 10 or 15 federation here, we hope there's upside in that number. I think that there is a wide range of federations, but if you're in the World Cup, generally speaking, you're a big federation.
There was a recent ticket sales opportunity for World Cup for tickets at all stadiums, all 16 stadiums throughout North America. I believe that window is closed now.
That first general public window has closed. There will be more. The response was incredible. From what we are told by FIFA, who controls all of the ticketing, including in Kansas City, we don't have actual numbers, but we know that those who were lucky enough to get the email that said that they had the chance to buy tickets, those sold out very quickly. So we know that people in the region are excited. And the other piece of it is we're the closest city to Chicago, to Denver, to Minneapolis, to Tulsa. So if you are in the middle of America, not just international visitors and not just people here, we're a pretty good option. We have a lower cost to visit, lower cost to stay. You can drive here if you're, if from anywhere really, but or fly here. So we think we're going to be really appealing from a ticketing standpoint.
Okay, and once you're here and wherever you come from, remind us how you're going to get around.
Sure. So our transportation team has been working with 18 area agencies for more than a year and a half, almost 2 years now. Those requirements we have to deliver: airport to downtown, FIFA Fan Festival to the stadium. Those are part of our contract with FIFA. We are looking at expanded service to make sure people can connect to all of the points of interest, hotel clusters, short-term rental clusters in the area. By the end of the year, we'll roll out that plan, but I feel very confident that we're going to be able to move all those people around and connect them to all points of interest in the region.
Pam Kramer with KC2026. Maybe we can check in again as the World Cup gets closer.
Would love to do it.
And before we wrap up, here's what's on my radar this week in Kansas City sports. One of the most notable college football games in the nation will kick off in Columbia on Saturday at 11 a.m. when the 14th-ranked Missouri Tigers host the 8th-ranked Alabama Crimson Tide. Missouri is 5-0. Bama has won 4 straight since its opening game loss to Florida State. Mizzou and Coach Eli Drinkwitz can make a big statement if they pull off the victory. The game will be on ABC. It was a split decision for Kansas schools last weekend. KU followed a disappointing home loss with a victory on the road, this one at Central Florida, and the defense made the difference. KU kept UCF off the scoreboard in the second half, and that included a riveting goal line stand. The Jayhawks improved to 4-2 and traveled to 9th-ranked Texas Tech for a 6:30 p.m. game on Fox. KU's a 14-point underdog in this one. Kansas State owned a 2-touchdown lead in the fourth quarter at Baylor last weekend, but things fell apart for the Wildcats in the final moments as the Bears blocked a last-snap field goal attempt to secure the 1-point victory. K-State fell to 2-4 and will look to rebound at home on Saturday against TCU. Kickoff is 2:30 p.m. The game's on Fox, and the Wildcats are favored by 1.5 points. Well, that'll do it for this week. Thanks to our SportsBeat KC staff of Randy Mason, Monty Davis, Irvin Zhang, Suzanne Hogan, and Gabriella Lacey, and to our editors, Jeff Rosen and Scott Chasen. We'll be back soon with another SportsBeat KC, where we talk sports in Kansas City.